Earlier today, NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell wrote a letter to President Biden making all of their 30 stadiums available as mass vaccination sites. 7 teams are already hosting vaccinations at or near their stadiums. We asked Superdome officials this afternoon. They said that they are aware of the commissioner's comments, but they have not been contacted by the NFL or the Saints about a specific request. Quote, the Mercedes-Benz Superdome is not currently a viable site because of the renovation taking place, and the Smoothie King Center is being used 3 to 4 nights a week when the Pelicans are at home. We are still exploring ways to help out the community as best we can.